Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick, spiritual life coach and your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words in these conversations embolden and inspire you. This is a message to all of you conscious creators. I want to ask you, do you feel that something is calling you to show up bigger in this world? Are you feeling a sense of urgency? Are you feeling a sense of mission? We're at a pivotal time in human history, and for those of us who feel the pull, it's incumbent upon us to live with authenticity and to express the visions we hold within us. If you know there's a purpose to your life, my purpose is to support you making that happen. If this message is awakening a curiosity within you, I invite you to follow the link in the show notes and have a conversation with me. I'm here to support women who are ready to make their mark in this world. Also, over on Her Inspirations, I've begun the Deeper Knowing series, which is a series looking at our emotions and why we should lean into and not run away from our emotions. If you haven't tuned in, I invite you over, and also join the mailing list where you'll get additional resources, exclusives, journaling, inspiration notes that help you on your journey. My guest this week is Victoria Cosima, an energy influencer, healer, a part of traditional Chinese medicine. Throughout her lifelong passion for beauty, she knew there was a missing component in a very skin-deep only industry. Her work uses the wrinkles and the features of the face as a guide to release stuck emotions and energy, connect with pleasure and joy, and awaken spiritually. During our conversation, Victoria shares about how the differing areas of our face reflects events in our lives and also pinpoints when we experience them. She also recommends practices and products we can incorporate into our own beauty routines. So as always, I begin by asking my guest. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
I definitely feel that resonance when I'm either observing or partaking in things of beauty and pleasure. So I would say not just sexual, but for example, I love when I just go to the beach and I'm just staring at the water and I really just feel so connected with spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it. And I've also noticed this summer, I feel that connection when I'm just really, really enjoying food, especially mangoes. I don't know why that happened, but I just get like a little zing. And I always start to remember and feel that resonance there. So yeah, it's definitely during those moments.
Good for you. God, you just I crossed my mind. I'm like, when was the last time I had a mango?
Yeah. I hadn't had one in a while, and I saw them at the market and was like, okay, those look so good. And then, the process kept going. And then every week I'm like, I need more mangoes because this energy feels so good and they taste so good. So yeah, they're out of season now, but can't wait till next time.
Yeah, I definitely didn't indulge this year. Like mangoes are one of those things like avocados. It's like a kind of, there's a window of time and it's a very narrow window of time where you can grab it, where it's just, everything's good.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So before we go on, Victoria, if you can just share with everyone who's listening a little bit about your story and how you got to be doing the work that you're doing today.
Sure. So what I do now, the short story, is that I show women how to feel sexy while aging. And I'm sure we'll get into the longer version, but the way that I got into this work is I used to be a beauty blogger back when blogs were having their heyday. And I started to realize that there was something missing from the equation, and I wasn't really sure exactly what that was. So I started investigating, and that whole process led me to realizing that there's a huge emotional connection to what is happening with our skin and how we feel about ourselves and all of that. So that led me to becoming a certified face reader. And I've been doing that work for the past 5 years. I've previously worked one-on-one with clients and will look at their faces, take a composite of any wrinkles, different features, different textures on the face, and we could see what was happening within. And what stood out to me was that anytime people would make an emotional connection to what was happening on their face would immediately start glowing. And I really thought, okay, there's something here that when we connect the microcosm of the face to the bigger picture of the body and the heart and the soul, then we get into the real aspect of beauty, not just what is only skin deep. So, right. Yeah, that's how I got started.
Good for you. It's interesting that you were talking about blogging, because I was just watching like a small it's like a YouTube documentary about the whole Glossier movement.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
was that like your era where you kind of like blogging at that point when that was really big and that was coming up?
Yes, I definitely was. And I was more into the clean beauty sphere. So it's kind of funny because there wasn't a lot of information. So I felt like I was just cobbling together things and telling people like, okay, here's what clean beauty is. Here's all of this stuff. But I've always done a ton of research, and I worked in journalism before this. So it's just kind of in my nature to do those deep dives. And yeah, definitely around the same time. And I feel like it was, obviously beauty's been around for hundreds of years, but I feel like at that time period of like Glossier and everything just exploded. So there was just like, it was like the Wild West.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Like remember, it was interesting because I never really got swept up in the whole Glossier thing, but I just kind of was interested in the phenomena of almost like influencer, that kind of influencer movement, and then to where it's got to now. I mean, like putting on makeup, it's like so complicated nowadays. It's so a completely different thing. Like when I was at school, it's like we had like an eyeliner and like a really kind of cheap lipstick as well. And you made that like work on like multiple areas of your face.
Yes.
It wasn't just this was the eyeliner. It was like the eyeliner, the black eyeliner was the black lip liner. Women of a certain age will know that look.
Totally.
And then, you know, the lipstick was the blush. And like, if you were clever enough, it was your eye. It was like your eyeshadow and everything like that. So, and then it became something completely different. And now it's just like so complicated. Like I've watched a few of the tutorials and like, one, this looks expensive, and just like really time-consuming as well. There's like, you kind of put things on because like if we're talking about makeup, when I thought I knew how to do makeup, is like you put the foundation on first, whereas now it's like you draw your brows in, you contour, you put stuff on and you put more stuff on, and I don't know, like your pores must be like crying out for mercy by the end of it, really.
Yeah, you know, I learned how to do makeup from a book because the internet was not around yet. So I still do it the old school way. Also, I never really wore foundation till I was in my 20s. So just watching all of the YouTubers, it's so confusing to me. I'm like, I don't want to personally do 50 steps. I don't even know if I've ever contoured my face.
Right.
But it's so funny because I tell like my little cousins and niece, like, okay, we did not have YouTube. We learned from a book, or like we went to the department store, or like our mom showed us. So we probably all looked a little crazy, but it worked.
It was the look at the time. I mean, like my eyebrows are still trying to recover from when they got penciled in. You know, it's like those changes, trends of beauty, and it's like whoever is deciding what they're going to just tell women to want is evil, really, because at one point it was like pluck your eyebrows away, and then the next thing you know, it's like bushy is good. And like, how are we going to get back from this? You know, some of us never recovered from that. Some of us,
you know, that's such a good point, especially because beauty shouldn't have to be something that we keep up with a certain trend, especially when some of those trends do not flatter our faces and our bone structure. And some of the trends that I see now, like the lip injections, those are just so unhealthy and also unsafe. And this is probably an unpopular opinion because I know a lot of people fight about this online, but it is truly unsafe to inject a toxin into your body. I'm just going to put that out there for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And also, to me, a lot of my clients who have wanted to get Botox or injections, I've talked them out of it because first of all, it doesn't last that long, so they have to keep doing it. It gets really expensive, but also like a lot of them have younger children. So when you freeze your face, you're not exactly feeling the emotion, and that emotion has to go back into the body, get repressed in an organ. You can't communicate with your kids as well, and they're learning their facial expressions from you. So there's just a whole plethora of issues of keeping up with the beauty trends that I just don't want women to subscribe to, and also create their own framework for beauty. Because I know it's an energetic thing, and I feel like it's being sold as, no, it's only what your face has on it or doesn't have on it. And it's just like, no, we collectively need to unsubscribe.
Yeah. No, it's interesting what you said about, if your mom's got Botox, you're not going to really know what her emotions is, and you're going to consider that as well. That's like really interesting. We'll talk more about how the face shows the emotions and experiences, and then how you're able to look at someone's face and prescribe or recognize, for instance, their experiences, and then go through there.
Sure. So the face is a microcosm of what is happening within the body and the energetic field. So throughout the face, each area represents a different organ and a different suborgan. And when you have wrinkles, for example, those usually indicate an action that you're doing or not doing that your body feels is not aligned, or another type of wrinkle indicates like an emotional repression of some sort. So once you heal the emotional repression, the line goes away, no matter what age you are. It's actually amazing to witness. I've seen some of this with my clients, that we start talking about, okay, well, I'll notice that, for example, they have one vertical wrinkle between their eyebrows, and that usually indicates repressed anger. Now, this is a really difficult one to pull up with people, because anyone who is accused of or even asked, like, do you have repressed anger? No, I'm great. I'm fine. They always say that. And it's like, okay, well, you have this mark. So my clients who actually like want to get deep into it, I'll start being like, okay, well, also the eyebrows represent the decade of the 30s in your life. So what was happening in the 30s? And we start to get deep. And I'll give my mom as an example. So she's about to be 60, and she had about a 2-inch line right there. And as she continues to resolve the emotional repression, the line is almost completely gone. So I help clients a lot with that. My whole perspective is that I want them to embrace what is on their face, because there's so many beautiful features, and those features represent amazing, empowering qualities within. And when you embrace that, you embody more of your authentic self. So, and just in a beauty spectrum, but I feel like you curate that inner glow because you're more connected with your heart space as well.
So how do you see what's happening especially with women who are like my age and up as well, so like 50 onwards, 45, 50 onwards, and they're going through transition now, perimenopause, menopause, and they're going into this portion of their life where society has basically told them that they're washed up, you know, and then looking at their face and they're like maybe pining, yearning for something that they had before. And like you said, then going down the route of injecting toxins or going even deeper and having surgery to kind of hold back time. What is surgery really doing on an energetic level when someone goes in and has corrective, quotation marks for anyone who's listening, corrective surgery, you know, like facelifts, and starts to like restructure the actual physiology of their own face? What goes on, what happens to them energetically when they're trying to undo, you know, like you say, they have this line in the middle, so if they then go and kind of pump it out with fillers and stuff, then they don't see it and don't feel that it's there, or going a bit further and literally carving their faces open. What's happening on a deeper energetic level when that happens, when they take those steps?
Sure. So in the case of injections where you're freezing the area, the emotions either get stuck further in the body because you cannot make the expression anymore. So they sometimes end up going into the wrong organ, and that organ cannot deal with the amount of emotional, I would say, like stagnancy. So also when you push the emotion down further, you're telling your body, like, I can't deal with this. So on an energetic level, you're actually like making the problem worse, in my opinion, instead of dealing with the emotion. And I understand why people don't want to, because a lot of these moments, and the reason that they initially repressed the emotions is because it was a traumatic experience for them, and they did not have the coping mechanisms to deal with it at that time. So, and then in regards to having a facelift, yes, that smooths out your face temporarily, but you're still not resolving what's happening underneath. And those emotions, on an energetic level, can create a lot of disease if you ignore them. And that could be anywhere from cancers to different syndromes like IBS. So that's kind of what's happening. It's basically like, if you don't deal with the emotion, it's going to deal with you at some point.
Right. So. True. Yeah, that's true on so many different levels. So say, how do you work with, say, a client? They come to you and just kind of give like a scenario. If they come to you, what would they approach you for, and then how would you work through the process with them, and maybe like how long would you expect to be working together?
Sure. So for my one-on-one clients, and we'll just take the case of if someone's coming to me and they're in perimenopause or menopause and not to postmenopause yet, what I would personally look for on their face, so their intention would be, you know, I feel like not myself, I'm having all of these symptoms, I kind of want to like return to who I was. And that is totally fine. However, we continuously evolve, and menopause actually is pushing us to be our most evolved and creative selves, because we have the space after menopause to do so. But I'll tell you two places that I would look on their face if they told me that they were going through perimenopause or menopause. So I would look underneath the eyes. That's a kidney area. The kidneys are really impactful in menopause. And if they have a lot of wrinkles under their eyes, that usually indicates lost love lines. And it doesn't mean you lost someone you love, but it more indicates you lost a part of yourself that you love. So we would work to regain that aspect, and how could we implement it into their lifestyle currently? So say, for example, someone, it's either something that you used to do or a way you used to feel about yourself. So say that someone, a lot of times I feel like some of the women who are going through menopause feel like they're losing their beauty, which I personally don't think that they are, but I think that is the cultural mindset, and it gets stuck with us because we hear it all the time, and that's the only narrative that's out there super publicly. about menopause is like, this is a disease, you're going to feel terrible, all of this stuff. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. So we reframe the narrative about menopause. We look at the lost love lines under the eyes and say, okay, how can we bring back parts of ourselves that we love and implement them in a fun way that brings us joy and reconnects with ourselves? And then the second part I would look at on their face is the philtrum, which is the space from underneath the nose that connects with the top of the lips. So in there, that's the fertility area, and that's another kidney area. So usually I see a horizontal line, and that means people are not breathing deeply enough and slowing down. Menopause is also a time to slow down and reconnect with yourself and decide who you want to be after, raising kids, having a certain type of career. You have the second half of your life. And in Chinese medicine, it's called the second spring, which to me just sounds so encouraging because, spring is a time of planting seeds and watching them grow. So when I see the horizontal line, we come back to, okay, how can we slow down? How can we bring in the breath into what we're doing and stop holding our breath? I see that a lot with people, especially if there's like a lot of tension. Another thing, and this is really important for menopause, especially if people have a vertical line in that philtrum area, is that they're giving too much of their time and energy away to other people, and it's not benefiting them. And I feel like a lot of women might take that as, well, I don't want to be a selfish person. But if you think about it, I'm sure you've been giving enough and a lot your entire time. You're supposed to turn this energy in now at perimenopause and menopause and redirect it for yourself. What do you want to create? Focus on you. So I would bring them to those areas, and usually we have good results with that. So, and people are really receptive to it, because I think that until someone tells you or you see someone doing this, you don't necessarily think like, I can reframe this whole narrative that everyone's been doing collectively for decades. But yeah, I think that's part of my life mission, is to show people what's possible.
Good. Me too.
Yes, I love it.
especially about, what aging is,
Yes.
and instead of thinking of it as like, this decline into invisibility and decrepitude, it's actually a maturation. And for me anyway, if I speak from my point of view, is maturing, but maturing in a way that isn't going to lose any of the fun of me. I'm not going to like lose my sense of humor. I'm not going to get so super serious about life that I become like kind of like buttoned up and pious and all this kind of thing. If anything, things are going to be very, very different in terms of, now that I can look back and go, okay, I've been here 50 years, I've done 50 years living, like, what am I going to do with that? Like, it's, what am I going to do with the second half? And like you say, reframe it and rewrite it. And I think, because I've met, I had someone speak to me like a while ago, and she, and my heart went out to her because she was having a really hard time of it where she was in her menopause, and she was telling me all the things that were going wrong with her, like literally like a whole list of everything. And I could relate to them because I'd had similar experiences. But then she kind of turned to me and went, well, it's all right for you. You wouldn't know any of this, like, because, like, she thought, like it was, obviously it's complimentary to have someone think that I'm like 20 years younger than I am. But I'm like, well, no, actually, like, I had to kind of go, like, let me just kind of break down the things that I've experienced. But the reason I'm not going through it is I'm not deciding to let it weigh me down. And I think what I'm seeing is the women that have done the work, and we hear this time and time and time and time again. So there must be something in it, as tired as we are of hearing the same rhetoric over and over again. But the more that you have done the work, the easier that transition is going to be for you on all levels, not just on the physical level, but on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, and the way that you decide that you're going to reframe it. And I think there's a lack of, especially in our Western culture, ceremony that like allows you to say, okay, I'm saying goodbye to that period of time and I'm walking into something else. And for some reason, I don't, it's obviously the societal messaging is telling us we're walking into doom's door, and then
Yes.
it's for us. But if you then would look at it like the same way that when you were stepping into puberty, and suddenly you had breasts and like your period came, and the big old thing that it was, it's like you went shopping for your first bra, and you like suddenly, it was like a big thing. You're like becoming something new. There just needs to be more celebration of that done in our culture about that, so that instead of women thinking everything that comes onto them is the end of it, it's just like it's a transition, like any transition, and transitions can be as easy or as painful as you want them to be. For me as well, just noticing if I'm seeing changes in my body, it's just like, okay, I'm noticing this, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm having a hot flush. It's like, and turning it into like something to be panicked about. And to be honest, like that period of time that I went through was just a few weeks, and it's actually gone. So I think it was more to do with the fact that it was summer and it was kind of warm more than anything else, because it's easy to attribute things to a kind of like a laundry list of symptoms and think, oh, well, I've got that, so it must be this. But it's, no, it's not that at all. It's kind of like, oh, okay, maybe we're on the other side of it. I don't know, but let me continue to change what that's about, not only for myself, and not only for women around me who come and work with me and are going through that, so that show them that it's possible, but then also for the generation behind me, who are kind of like clinging to like their 30s, dreading their 40s, thinking that they're heading to something where the clock's ticking and it's all over for them. So they just enjoy that period of time, because I do have friends in their 30s at the moment who are struggling with a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to find the language to have a conversation with them that doesn't sound condescending, because I don't want to be like, well, when I was your age, but
Yes.
I don't give it that kind of thing, but I'm just saying, like, it ain't as bad as you think it is, and a lot of what you think it is you're comparing yourself, you're putting yourself up against something, even if you think that you're not, you are, because if you found that rootedness that like we kind of like don't really embrace until we're like, oh, 50, okay, what am I going to do about that? When you're in 30s, you're still trying to like find your way in the world, and you're looking at where you can fit in, as opposed to this is how I am and this is where I stand and this is what I'm going to do. So it's for all of us. I think we all have a responsibility to really find how we're going to show up and embody what it is, the wisdom that we're learning at all ages, so that all women can see that there's something different going on, that we're not just crashing and burning and falling into the spaces and the dark holes that we think are set up for us. It's not really true, I don't think, anyway, as well. But as a woman in that period of her life, like what are you seeing with your peers, and what are you trying to change in terms of the conversation?
Yes, so I'm in my 30s, and I would say with the people that are close to me, and maybe this is because I attracted people of similar mindsets, they are all embracing aging, but they want to age in the best way possible, which to me is great, because then you're also like focusing on well-being instead of worrying about well-being, and those have completely different frequencies to them. But a lot of other people that I just see and maybe know socially, they're dreading leaving their 30s and becoming 40. They're really embracing, I would say there's a lot of energy of having to fix things. Of, okay, I need to fix this wrinkle, and I need to fix this about my body, and I'm getting a gray hair, so I need to fix this. And to me, when you're in that fixing energy, it indicates like a lack of mindset, because you don't have it what you want, so you have to fix it. Instead, what I do is, well, one, if I see a wrinkle, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm purging emotions. I love this for me. And then I kind of see what's going on there, and I sit with the emotions, and the lines go away. I've also been doing this work for a while, so for me, it happens really fast. But yeah, I feel like it's probably half and half in my decade right now. But yeah, definitely some people are dreading turning 40, and it's a mindset that I honestly like can't understand. But I also feel like I just am really like have a healthy mindset about aging. And I think that the woman who said, "Oh, no, you're 20 years younger," I think that what you said about, always doing the work and showing up for yourself, that is why you look 20 years younger, because the wisdom is coming through and the connection that you have with your heart is coming through. And that is a lot of what happens, like how to get rid of wrinkles on the face and like communicate like the peacefulness that you have within. It radiates through your face. So yeah.
Thank you. So what I want to ask you, like, can you just give like a quick map of the face? Like if you saw a wrinkle here, what would that mean? What would that mean? What would that
Sure.
mean?
So I'll just do top down. So the upper part of the forehead is all about the kidneys, and that's the late teenage years. So kidneys represent fear, and a lot of times I see a lot of people with forehead wrinkles, and the lower part of the forehead is the liver. And we live in a society, at least in Western culture, where we're always doing, 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 and that's the energy of the liver. But the liver gets tired after a while. So a lot of people will have wrinkles, not only because they have a tired liver, and we're talking about the forehead now, because a lot of stuff happens in the 20s that does not get resolved, or you're in a perpetual state of shock. You've left your familial home, you've gone to college, you've gone into the workforce, you've done whatever, and everything's like a first time experience. So it's a little startling, and people are literally raising their eyebrows and like making that facial expression that indicates like suspicion, shock, all of those things. So I would work with that energy on the forehead. And then moving down, and there's like different things going on there, but this is just a general overview. Moving down, the area around the eyebrows is the 30s, and then the bridge of the nose, around out to the eye, like under eyes, is 40s and 50s, and then you just keep going down from there till you get to the chin, and that's about the 80s. So the under eyes, like I said earlier, is the kidney area, and I have this right now, a project that I'm working on. My Qigong teacher says to call things projects and not issues or diseases or all of these things, because then we get stuck in a negative mindset of fixing. So I do see a lot of people with under eye issues. So for me, I have whiteness, and that indicates frozen kidneys. For my personal background of why I have this is a lot of emotional trauma that, instead of going through the like nervous system regulation process where I do like fight, flight, or freeze, it got stuck in freeze. So now I'm working with that energy to kind of like melt it and work with my kidneys. So every time I do anything that regulates my nervous system, I am freezing after, which is, the body is just so fascinating to me, but it's literally the coldness coming out of my body. So moving on down, the tip of the nose is kind of your power area, but it's also the pericardium, which is the encasement of the heart. It protects the heart. So you'll see a lot of people, you don't necessarily see wrinkles here, but it can swell. Some people, noses will get purple, and that definitely indicates something going on with the heart. And then if you move over to the cheek area, this is the lungs, and the lungs, excuse me, the lungs are the metal element in Chinese medicine, and that's all about grief. So if you have vertical lines going back from the mouth to the ear, that can indicate that you're holding on to some grief. And grief is probably the hardest emotion to work through, but wisdom definitely transcends grief. So if you can find wisdom in a very difficult grieving situation, that starts to pull out the grief and starts to resolve it. And then we move down to the we move down to the lips, and those are the intestine area. So you can definitely see what is going on with the large and small intestine around the lip area and across the lip area. So it also indicates your pleasure center and how much you're available to receive. You know the phrase a stiff upper lip? That people who have that have like the thinnest upper lip, and they are really, I don't know if this is the right word, but stingy with their emotions and stingy with receiving. So it's kind of funny.
I'm laughing at that because it's such a British term.
Yes.
And nothing could be truer about the idea of the personality of someone who has a stiff upper lip. They're so held in,
Yes.
they're so buttoned down and repressed that it's like you just wonder like where's the joy eking out of you, you know? But yeah, it's very much the kind of the stereotypical British personality.
Totally.
Many people live by that as well. So just to add to that.
Totally. And you'll also see that stiff upper lip with a lot of politicians. It's really interesting once you start looking at the face based on groups of people, you'll start to notice the similarities. And our face changes all the time, like literally minute to minute. So it's really just interesting to see someone could start out with a stiff upper lip and then grow their lip by embracing receiving more, embracing their emotions. So it's just really interesting. The face can always change. And then once we move down to the chin, that is the kidney. So a lot of times if you see like someone who has an orange peel chin where it's kind of dimply, or they have redness, that is a lot of fear right there. And there's also a phrase, a stubborn chin, and that is when the chin juts out too. And that is the same in face reading, which I just think all of these phrases throughout time are so funny because people really knew what was going on within them and came up with these phrases. And then the final aspect, well, besides the ears, which are the kidneys, and we look at the ears a lot, but is the jaw, and that's the liver. I know a lot of people say hormonal, and I get where they're coming from, but we, in my vein of face reading, focus on the liver. And that's all about doing. And if you have a strong liver, you can get a lot of things done. But the other end of that is you never stop. So then you burn out. So yeah, there's a quick tutorial of the face.
It's amazing. There's a couple of questions I want to ask actually.
Sure.
And now you're like pointing out things. So where shall I go first? Okay, let's stay on the face. Well, both of them are related to the face. So the first one is like things like jowls or double chins or you know, like facial you know, the way that the face will change where you find that you have a double chin or you get kind of jowly.
Yes.
What happens there? What's that about? Is that just because of you're losing muscle tone or because you've gained weight, or is there more to it than that?
So I see like the double chin and sagging differently, and I'll explain both. Sagging in face reading is related to giving too much of your energy away. So if you really start seeing sagging skin during this peri and menopausal time, go back to where you're putting your energy, and that can help. Another aspect of that is if you have a really stiff neck and shoulder and the fascia is so tight, that actually pulls down the face. And by loosening, well, I wouldn't say loosening, by repairing the health of the tissues there, doing fascia stretching, which I teach in my program, it also helps the face to bounce back and not have that sagging skin, which is being pulled down by tension. Another thing, like you mentioned, is muscle tone. I've noticed that sometimes people who clench their teeth either have a really tight jawline or they start losing tone in the jaw, or it's like a little bumpy. So if you clench your teeth, that could be another reason of all this tension that's in the jaw. So massaging that out and also working with the neck and the liver, because the jaw is the liver. So I think that's where the sagging skin comes from. Because if you think about it, it's like everything is pulling down, but if we're keeping this neck and shoulder area like loosened and pliable, then it's not going to be pulling anything. And then the double chin, I haven't worked with that a lot, but I think that a lot of people get it when they're pulling their chin back. And anything to do with the chin is fear and kidneys. So if you think about the motion that you have to pull your chin back and have a double chin, you're receding into fear. And anytime someone has a receding chin, that is also about fear. So I think that's personally where it's from.
Interesting. And yeah, because I've noticed my face change again, and even over the course of this year as well, it's changing. So I don't know also because I've been making dietary changes. So I don't know if some inflammation, but there was a period of time, and if I think, the past 5 or 6 years of my life, there was a period of like intense grief, like my mum passed, and a lot of things were going. And I'd see, I was still trying to do stuff online and put videos out and everything like that, and I'd watch things back. And I just didn't recognize myself. Like, I don't know whose face that is.
Yeah.
It was like I was literally looking at my own face, and then but because obviously it's like my face is on my face, but then I'd be looking and just going like who's that? Like it was surprising. There were many times where I looked at myself and I just didn't know. I didn't recognize my face, and my weight had gone up, but not to such a degree that it was like it was almost like there was something over it, and I notice now as I'm going through some shifts internally. I'm making stepping into like a really different space that that I'm looking now like an older version of myself, like in the nice way, whereas opposed to there were a few years where I just didn't look like myself. I just had a different face, and if that makes sense to you. Whereas now I can see my face and go, oh, that's my face, like a few years older now, and that the transition of that is different. And I remember saying it to a friend. I was like, when you said about the nose, I was like, I'm saying like, I'm sure my nose is swollen, because I was going through a period of time where I'm just like, where is my face gone? So I think you can speak to.
So was your face swollen or more gaunt and dark? What was your face looking like at the time?
When I had like swollen nose, or
when you were grieving?
It was just kind of like, it was almost like it was just like puffy in a way. If I look back on some of the reels that I've done online, especially like 2 or 3 months ago, where I just I had this kind of like chipmunk face, and just like that's never been my face, because I've always had very defined like cheekbones and everything like that. So I'm just like, and I'm like, yeah, I know my weight's gone up a little bit, but not to the extent that it would take me like so far away from my face. I just couldn't even find any definition at all. And I've got very strong bone structure under this as well. So I'm like, where's it gone? It almost was like things had just like kind of like filled out here, and not in a way that looked like weight gain, because I've gained weight before and my face has looked like me, but different. But this was a different thing. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I can see my face again. And so I'm like, oh, there you are, and then I can see now I'm just looking like an older version of me, as opposed to this imposter that just kind of came and embodied my face for like a few years. I don't know if anyone's ever said anything as bizarre as that to you, but I literally, maybe I spent too much time staring at myself, but I really noticed it, Yeah.
No, our face definitely changes when we're dealing with really hard emotions. And so without seeing a photo of what you looked at like that time, I'm guessing 2 things. You either were retaining water that was needed to surround your organs, and your body just didn't have the capacity to let go of it, or it might have been some type of fat, and we retained fat as a protector of these difficult emotions. So that might have been what was happening. I've noticed under intense periods of stress, I'll have just like rashes on my face. and I'll think that my face looks different too from what I'm used to. And yeah, it's really different because, or it's really interesting because everyone's faces show up so differently than how they're used to during these times. Like you said, your nose was swollen, and that was, sounds like your pericardium was working extra hard to protect your heart from the grief, probably. So that could be another reason.
Interesting, interesting. And also, I wanted to ask about cultural differences. You know, because you talk about a stiff upper lip, but they're like from my background, like we don't have thin lips. We just
Right.
don't. So, but do you know, is there something that kind of like transfers across cultures that then are indicative of like a cultural story in terms of like the shape of their nose, their lips, their eyes, anything like that?
Yes, definitely. And I think it also depends on where you were raised, even if you are of a different culture. So if someone was um, like, I'll just use myself as an example. I'm Italian, Hungarian, all of these things. And I would say like a lot of Italians don't have thin lips because they're really used to like enjoying pleasure and food. And so that's like one small thing. I'm trying to think of other examples of cultural. I've definitely seen this with people before. Um, you'll definitely notice in some cultures they really have prominent noses. And I know people are really into chopping their nose off. I would not recommend because that's your power source. And a lot of the people in those cultures who have prominent noses, especially if they're like an inch off the face, their ancestors were explorers and they were like bringing them to other countries and all of these things. So to me, it's also a nod to your ancestors of the face that you have. Let me think of another. I recently, my fiance was watching some fight on TV, and I noticed that all of the fighters had really strong noses. So, and they also had really strong eyebrows, and you definitely need at least one of those to be in something so physical. Um, so I would say that is a cultural thing of like a cultural of like fighting. And obviously people were different ethnicities in that arena, but they all had the same features, strong eyebrows and strong noses. So I also think that the strength of the features kind of propels you into what you like, what career you might take on too. So, and if I think of other features,
Do you ever do
I'll share
anything
them.
around the eyes? Is there what do they call it? Is it sanpuku eyes? You know, sometimes where they have a lot of whites under the eyes, or they have a lot
Oh,
of whites over the eyes, and one is said to be almost like a kind of victim state, and then
yes.
you've got like the white over the eyes, you're a psychopath. Because of the glare, and they usually use kind of pictures of like murderers and
Mhm.
the most vicious criminals to labor that point.
Totally. So the four-sided white eyes, usually where there's white above the eyes, doesn't always indicate a psychopath. I can
Mm.
like go on a super long tangent about like how you can see psychopaths and sociopaths and narcissists. Don't want to distract from this, but the under the so three-sided white eyes where there's white underneath the eyes, that usually indicates adrenal issues. And I know JFK had that. And usually when people have that, there's like really bad adrenal issues, a major depletion. And in some, I can't remember the source of this, but usually people or animals in the wild that have eyes like that, they'll be attacked more than other animals. Something to do with like what you said, kind of like a victim state. And yeah, they're usually, I don't see that one too often, but sometimes if I ever like go online and look at the news, you'll see that with some people who are telling their story online.
Mm. It's interesting, that, isn't it? Yeah, there's a, like when the more that you think about the face and what the face tells, as long as someone doesn't, go under the knife for it, that there's so much can be revealed from the face. I also
Absolutely.
want to ask you about practices like things that I like to do as well. I was doing it. I had like when I was doing a bit of work, I had this woman that I follow on YouTube, and she was doing this face yoga class. So, and I knew that I was speaking to you as well today. So I was like in between doing it, because yesterday I was just like staring at this screen all day long to the point that when it was done, I was like, I don't want to look at anything. So I was just kind of doing things to like ease my eyes, because my eyes they almost felt hot. Like by the end of the day, I was like, I'm just done. Because also I've got the light here so that I don't look like I'm sitting in a cave. But what about things like face yoga, like face Pilates, like lymph massages and things like that? How do you, I mean, what do you use that in your work? Do you suggest that to your clients for things to help them move through what they're moving through and regain what it is they're looking to regain?
Yes, absolutely. So I don't necessarily recommend face yoga because sometimes I think some of the sequences overuse the face muscles. And then when you're overusing it, it can create wrinkles, even though I know some people have really good results. So if that works for them, completely great. I do recommend gua sha, which is using the stone and an oil, and it also moves chi in the face. So it moves the energy. It also helps to move lymph and blood. And you need the chi to help move the blood. So I've been doing that for several years since I learned it from an acupuncturist. And I can definitely tell if my face is ever swollen and I do it, it makes a huge difference. So for you, doing eye massage, and you can use like a little stone or like an acupressure pen. I like to take the acupressure pen around my eyes and like do little massages and trigger points, especially after looking at the computer all day. So I definitely recommend that. Depending on the client, I'll tell them skincare products, but that's kind of really minimal. I do recommend microneedling at home. And let's see, there's so many things. I'm like, where should I go with this?
I mean, like,
Definitely,
what would you say were like the top it's hard to say, especially if someone is very much into like off the shelf cosmetics with all the promises and all the bits and pieces in. Like I personally, I'm just like oil through and through. Like I ditched all of that years ago. So it's just like varying different oils and playing around with it. I'm just going through real castor oil phase at the moment. I'm just like,
I love it.
you know. So like easy steps into things that people can use, because also like I find that when you just transition to like a good oil, it's way cheaper than any of this stuff anyway. Like than spending like 50, 60, or how, I don't even know how much these things are, you know, but a good like liter of castor oil is like £25 and lasts you for ages, and it's all over the body. And but yeah, for someone who's like recognizing that those promises in these little serums and these tubs and these tubes and just ultimately like the idea of it sounds nice, but then the ingredient list for a woman, you just don't need to be like literally drinking that stuff in every day. It's all gonna add up to something. So then they go, okay, I want to go natural, but then where do I go? Like, what would you say? Okay, these are the good first steps to take. These are like the easy transitions for you.
Sure. So I have gone even like super cleaner in products, and I don't even want to use the word clean. I feel like I've gone even more natural, I would say. So if someone is not vegan, I would recommend using tallow butters and finding a source that doesn't really use essential oils, because they do work for some people. However, they're highly concentrated, so they can just be a little too astringent for the skin. So I would say start there. And at least in America, there's several brands that I would definitely use. And it's also like you can use it on your hair, your face. It's kind of like castor oil. You can use it everywhere. So I would say start there. And I would also say don't expect any skincare product to give you these insane results that they're marketed to give you, because I feel like what you should use skincare for is for moisture. And I also do recommend glycolic acid once or twice a month, but an at-home version, because the kind that they do in med spas can be really, really intense for your skin. So I would say start there. And if you're dealing with anything like acne or whatnot, a salicylic acid would work. But I would say focus on keeping your skin moisturized, especially when you're moving into menopause, because a lot of people say that they experience a lot of dryness, and keeping your skin moisturized internally and externally. But I honestly, besides the tallow and the gua sha, I try to focus on internal beauty with food and like regulating my nervous system, because I know that actually works better than any of the skincare products. And I've really tried everything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to Sephora nonstop and then move to clean beauty. And now I'm just like, okay, I also want the least amount of products. I don't want to spend 30 minutes a night slathering my face, because I still know that doesn't work as well.
Right. The lip cream, the eye cream, the cheek cream, the serum,
Right.
stuff, where it's just I'm the same. I'm just like way too lazy for that. And can you one thing that just came up as well, especially I know a lot of women are mad on, is collagen. Like what can you recommend as like something that something in the place for what they're looking for with collagen, and then what to do to counter what they're trying to do with collagen?
So the way I get collagen is through homemade bone broth that I make in a crock pot. And that to me is the best source of collagen. And then also working with your fascia, whether you're doing stretching at home or having someone stretch you, that makes a huge difference, because when you alleviate the tension in the tissue, it allows blood to flow. And when the blood is flowing, all of the systems in the body can work better. And also, I don't know the exact scientific way, but it can also increase collagen too. So I would say those two things.
When women go through any transition, but one of the things that we hold dear is like our appearance, and so much of our self-esteem and confidence, rightly or wrongly, is linked to how we feel we are representing ourselves in the world. So to find that there's a deeper level to it, and also find that there is work that we can do to actually show up and radiate in a different way, and radiate in a pure way, is exactly what we need to hear. So thank you for sharing. So can you just let everyone know where they can find you, Victoria? And if you've got any good things coming up, let us know that too.
Sure. So you can go to my website, victoriacosima.com, COSIMA. And also my links for social media are there. And I do have a program coming up called the Luminous Living Soul Spa. So basically everything we talked about today will be in this program, and it will be online, so anyone in the world can join. Well, any woman over 30. So everything we talked about today, plus tons more, it will just kind of give you the formula of everything you need to know about aging and how to implement it without having to spend hours and weeks researching. And also, I hope everyone just leaves the program feeling sexy, empowered, and confident. So, yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you so much for your sharing. So it's all part to do with, we all want to be showing up as our best. So love what you say. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victoria, for sharing me, and thank you for listening. Find out more about me on my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, CarolMaywhittick.com. Find me on LinkedIn and Facebook, Carol May Whittick, and on Instagram, Casmic, CAZMICK. Take care, enjoy your week. See you next time.